Hey everyone, this is a video for lesson 1.4. So you can take out your note-taking guides. If you don't have it, hit pause, go grab that. Again, looks like another one that you guys have done in the past, but sometimes you just need a refresher. We're looking at powers and exponents. Okay, let's just kind of talk about some of the words here. A power, it says, is a product formed from repeated multiplication by the same number or expression. So like if we have 4 to the third, we kind of call that the whole thing the power. And we'll look at what that means in a second. The base is going to be the bigger number at the bottom. And the exponent is the smaller number up to the right hand corner. Okay, the base is the number that is being multiplied. The exponent is how many of them are being multiplied. So 4 to the third would mean 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, so 4 times 4 would be 16, times 4 would be 64. So if you had to evaluate it, that would be 64. Okay, so let's look at some of their examples and problems. So just how to read a power, 5 to the second power means 5 times 5 as a repeated multiplication. There's two ways actually to read something to the second power. You could say 5 to the second power, or a shortened version is squared. So this would be 5 squared. 8 to the third means 8 times 8 times 8. And so you could say 8 to the third power, or 8 cubed. There's a shortened version for to the third power. It works just as easy with variables. X to the sixth means x times x times x times x times x times x. So six of those there. And that's just read x to the sixth power. There's no shortcut. So if the directions say evaluate a power, that means actually find out what it equals. If they say find the repeated multiplication, all you have to do is write out, like, the repeated multiplication for 8 to the third is this. It didn't say evaluate, so we don't need to write the answer. If it says evaluate it, then you actually need to find out the answer. So 3 to the fourth means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which equals 81. Okay, I'll show you. I think I got to go back here and turn the sharing off, but I will show you how to use your calculator for that. We'll do that 3 to the fourth problem. So I'm going to hold this here. Okay, if you have your calculator and you hold it this way, okay, you could do, let me see if I can get that, move that out of there. Why is that there? Okay, so we could go 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 equals 81. Okay, but if you turn it like this, your calculator, most calculators, you turn like this, you're going to get more functions. Okay, so let me get in close here. So there's usually a button. We have an x squared and an x cubed button there. Okay, those ones you could just, like, if I want to go 9 squared, I can hit 9. It squared is 81. Okay, or like 4 cubed, the one problem we did in the example, 64. But if we want to do that 3 to the fourth one, there's not a shortcut button for the fourth or any other one. So what you would do is hit the base first, so 3. Then there's this x to the y button. Okay, I don't know if it's getting zoomed in there. Okay, but it's right here. Hit that, and then hit the fourth power. Hit equals, and I get 81. Okay, so you want to find a button that says x to the y. Okay, if that's hard to see there. Okay, so let's go back. So on that calculator again, you would hit 3. You'd hit the button 3. Then you'd find the button X to the Y. You'd hit that. Then you hit the 4 button. Hit the equals button, and you would get 81 for an answer. Okay, so that's how you use your calculator for that. Here, just some problems you could see. They give you a repeated multiplication. You need to write it as a power. So there's 5 9s here, so that's 9 to the 5th. Remember, the base is the number that is being multiplied. This is 11 to the 3rd. Even with variables, no different, t to the 2nd. Okay. Here it says describe in words and then evaluate. So this is a 10 cubed, means 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. 2 to the 6th power. So 2 multiply 6 2s. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 64. 15 squared, 15 times 15 is 225. 7 to the 1st. 7 to the 1st is 7. One thing we didn't go over, they don't show here, and I don't think you'll see it, but anything, any number to the 0 power is equal to 1, just so you know that. Any number to 0 is 1. Also, just make sure common mistakes, 10 to the 3rd, sometimes people write down 30. They get in the habit of multiplying, okay? 10 to the 3rd means 10 times 10 times 10, right? And then last thing they go over here is kind of looking at order operations again. So before when we looked at order operations, it didn't have powers involved. They went from grouping symbols, multiplication and division, and then add and subtract. So now that step just gets put in between the grouping symbols and the multiplication and division. So if we have here, it says an egg drop contest. You drop an egg from a window of a building. The egg hits the ground after 2 seconds. From what height did you drop your egg? Okay, so they'd have to give you the formula for this. I wouldn't expect you to know this, okay? But it says to find how high you are from the ground in feet, use the expression 16t squared, where t is the time in seconds. Okay, so that's just a little expression, 16t squared. It dropped for 2 seconds, so we're going to put 2 in for t. Okay, so we have 16 parentheses 2 squared. Okay, remember 2 squared, we have to do that first, exponents first. So don't go 16 times 2 is 32 and then 32 times 32 when it says 32 squared. So we got to go 2 squared, which is 4. Then 4 times 16 is 64. So if it went 2 seconds, we'd be at a height of 64 feet. Okay. Let's go down below. Look at some more of the order operations here. So it looks like we got some grouping symbols. We got some powers. It looks like they made an error in the writing here. Let me look at my other copy here, because that looks like they wrote a 2 in one spot and then they changed it to an 8. Which is a little odd. So excuse me 1 second. Just want to get this right here. Okay, so it looks like this should be an 8 right here. I don't know why they went from 2. So that's a misprint. Let's make that an 8. So we first start with parentheses. Well, they made a lot of mistakes here. Looks like over here, this should be a 28. So just a bad example. So, but anyways, we'll go through it with 28 here and 8 there. So do parentheses first. 7 minus 3 is 4. And we can just copy the rest down. So the rest at this point, because they made a misprint, 4 to the 3rd minus 28 plus 8 squared. Okay. So we go 4 to the third is 64. 8 squared is 64. We can't do subtraction or addition yet. Then we have subtraction and addition. You do them in order from left to right. They're not a priority over each other. So 64 minus 28 is 36. Okay, so those two together is 36. Then plus the 64 is 100. Okay, another one here, it says 3 times, in parentheses, 2 plus 4 squared divided by 3 squared. So, parentheses first. So we copy down the 3 times 6 squared, because 2 plus 4 is 6. And we copy down the 3 divided by, divided by 3 squared. Now, they could have done 2 steps at once and wrote the 9 right here, but they wrote it down first. Now they did exponents next. So they bring the 3 down. They do 6 squared is 36. Can't do division yet. 3 squared is 9. Okay, so now they have 3 times 36 divided by 9. Okay, so now we got to go 3 times 36. So they didn't write every step down here, but that would actually be 108. And then divided by 9, that would give you the 12. Okay, so let's go through here. We're almost done. We'll look at these examples. Let's go parentheses first. So we get 6 plus 5 is 11. We put the square there. We can copy down the rest. Plus 7 minus 5 to the third. So 11 squared. Again, you can use your calculator for this. You get 121. We can't add the 7 yet because we have this exponent over here. So 5 cubed, or 5 to the third, is 5 times 5 is 25, times another 5 is 125. Now we go left to right because it's just addition and subtraction left. So we get 121 plus 7 is 128, minus 125 gives us 3. Number 9, parentheses first. So we go 15 plus 9 minus 2 is 7 squared, and then we have to write down 2 to the 5th. Okay, so now we do the powers. So we get 15 plus 49 minus 2 to the 5th. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times another 2 is 32. Okay, so now work left to right. 15 plus 49 is 64. Minus 32 equals 32. All right, last one until we get to a one-word problem. We could do this 9 to the third right now, but let's do the parentheses first, copy everything else down, and then we'll do all the powers in the next step. So here we get 7 minus 5 is 2. We get 2 to the 4th. So now 9 to the 3rd is actually 729. Remember, it's not 27, not 9 times 3. 9 times 9 is 81, times 9 is 729. Then we go plus 16 divided by 2 to the 4th. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay, order operations. We have to do this division first, so don't add and then divide. So we'd have 729 plus 16 divided by 16 is 1. And that's how we get the 730. Okay. Number 11, they want you to use the same expression from example 3 over here. So the 16t squared, if it fell for 3 seconds. So 16t squared, so we're going to put 3 in for t. Okay. Now remember, exponent first. So we leave the 16. 3 squared is 9. 16 times 9 is 144. Okay. So there's examples in the note-taking guide. If you go to the study guide, again, there's just other examples. Nothing new here. Okay, they have one other kind of word problem where they have an expression. Okay, maybe I'll walk through that one quick just so you see it's slightly different. But otherwise, order operation stuff, I would suggest looking at the study guide. If you can do all the problems on here, you'll be good for the test. Answers in the back, ask questions if you need. Let's take a look at this one just because there's one other slightly different than the other ones. One thing I want to show you. So the square house sits on a square lot. The side length of the lot is 3 times the side length of the house. You want to find the area of the yard for planting grass seed. Now we could go in how they get this expression, but for right now they give it to you, so I won't worry too much about setting it up. It says you can use the expression 3s, what they call quantity squared, or the group of 3s squared minus s squared, where s equals 30 feet is the side length of the house. Okay, so they give you the side length, you put that in for s. So now, big thing you need to know is that this 3s is in parentheses, and that whole thing is squared. So they do 3 times 30, that's in parentheses. So you have to multiply that first and get 90. Then you can do 90 squared, which is 8100. 30 squared is 900, subtract. Okay? So I just kind of wanted to show you that quick. So study guide will tell you what you need to know for the test, the practice. If you do any of this, make sure you show your work for the ones that are like evaluate expressions. There's not a lot to show up here. And there's a couple of things at the end. Remember, if you're doing these greater than, less than, or equal to, it opens towards the bigger number. Okay, so you'd have to figure out what 4 to the third is, what 3 to the fourth is, and figure out which one's bigger. Okay. All right, so there is lesson 1.4. If you have any questions, let me know.